Hello and welcome back to the Greek Pyramid. We are continuing on with the 12 Days of Christmas series in which I'm posting a new video every other day leading up to Christmas. So let's see what's behind door number 3. I mean, you have already seen it in the title of the video. So, which of the Greek or Roman gods are good parents? I mean, it is what it says on the tin. This is based purely off the children of the gods we see within the Percy Jackson series. We're not going to take into account their ancient antics in any way. Also, these are all relative to one another, because most of them I don't think would count as good parents in real life terms, but it's purely within the sphere of Percy Jackson, knowing that they can't have that much contact anyway. Let's start with the king himself, Zeus/Jupiter. We have seen 2 of his kids in modern times, Thalia and Jason. Zeus does save Thalia when she is mortally wounded, trying to get to Camp Half-Blood, turning her into a tree to stop her from going to the underworld, which I think is probably a net positive tick in his direction. Then with Jason, it's difficult to say because Zeus was one who implemented the lack of contact rule, so we can see why he's rarely interacted with him, as he can't exactly go around breaking every single one of his rules. But most gods on this list do manage to have some form of interaction with them over time. Zeus and Jason's was very limited. Also, at least outwardly, he didn't seem to be upset by Jason's death, even in comparison to Hera. I'm going to put him in bad parent. Second up, we've got Hades/Pluto. We've seen him with 3 kids throughout the Percy Jackson series, Bianca, Nico and Hazel. All of Hades' children are shown to not really have the best lives, but I like to think he tries where possible to make it better. Bianca, we didn't get to see much of their relationship. Then with Nico, he does at some point say, I think it's in The Last Olympian, that he prefers Bianca, which does maybe bring down my estimations for him, not really considering Nico's feelings in that way. However, he does seem to genuinely care for Nico, and that grows throughout the Heroes of Olympus series. He gets Nico, a zombie chauffeur, because he's unable to drive Nico around, he still wants to be a better dad. He has a room in Hades' palace. With Hazel, he does have to ignore her, or in his terms, he has to ignore her, otherwise he has to take her back to the land of the dead. But he does pop up after she manages to manipulate the mist and does say, I think, how proud he is of her. I think all in all, Hades is shown to be one of the better, if not the best parents throughout the series, so I'm going to put him in good parent. To cap off the big 3, we've got Poseidon. This one we've got, obviously, the biggest instances of all with Percy himself, and I think Poseidon is shown to care for Percy, although a little cynical part of me is thinking, is he only doing it because Percy could save or end the world that he takes an interest? He does come to his birthday party, he gives him a gift, he does actually have some communication with him. When Percy sat on his throne, he didn't smite him. Then his other child, Tyson, he's shown to try to protect him when they're fighting Oceanus in The Last Olympian, as he doesn't wish any harm to come to him. Instead, keeping him working in the forges. Of course, he then does bring him into the fight against Typhon, but the point still stands, I think. Tyson does also believe that Poseidon leads him to Percy, as he prayed to him asking for help. All in all, he does seem to care about both of his children and whether any harm comes to them, so I'm going to put him in good parent as well. Athena is probably one of the more interesting cases. She does guide Annabeth after Annabeth runs away from home. However, we don't necessarily see them interact that much apart from that, except from when Annabeth has been done saving the world in some way. And she does, I don't know whether this is more Athena or Minerva, or whether it's due to the whole split personality thing, but she does basically disown Annabeth in the Mark of Athena and sets her on the quest of finding the Athena Parthenos to face her greatest enemy, which has led many of her children throughout history to die. That's quite a burden. I mean, obviously all demigods have quite a burden, but I think that's going to push me towards putting Athena in bad parent. Aphrodite does seem to care, at least in the short term, about her kids, seeing them almost as puppies she can play with and their love lives. Although she does also seem to help them along in their quests. I'm going to put in good parent. She does support them through particularly Piper through her quest. Ares/Mars. We obviously have 2 children to judge him off. in Clarice and Frank. If we start off with Clarice in the Sea of Monsters, we do see him basically screaming at her, putting under a lot of pressure, and generally not being the best father. Later on, he does praise her, allowing her to drive his chariot, or he's very supportive in The Last Olympian when she killed the Draken and gave her the blessing of Ares, calling her the best warrior he'd ever seen. So he is partial to a bit of praise. So I think it might be kind of a tough love scenario, or he's just not a very good father. Maybe if we take a quick look at Frank, we can figure this out further. It's difficult again. After Mars claims him at Camp Jupiter and sends him on a quest, just kind of fights in Frank's head for a while after Leo fires on New Rome. And Frank has to prove himself worthy to his father as he asks for a snake to repair Triptolemus's chariot in the House of Hades. He then also goes on to give Frank the blessing of Mars. I think at the end of the day, he is in some way there for his children. Once in his eyes they are worth it. But as someone with no kids, I'm not sure that's great parenting 101, so I'm going to put him in bad parent as well. Apollo feels like he should probably be discounted from this list, as he was made mortal, allowing him to grow closer to his children, meaning he can actually interact with them on a human level with them more. Although Will does say in Blood of Olympus that he was worried about Apollo's silence, and that it's not normal for him to not answer prayers. So it seems that he was interacting with them, at least in some way, prior to Trials of Apollo. I think I'm going to put him in good parent. Hermes? Yeah, I think he's a good parent. He attempted to check in when he could. He seemed to mourn his son, dejected by the fate he knew his son had, but knowing he had to let it happen anyway. Demeter, this has got to be one of the weirdest ones on this list, as we don't ever really see Demeter. Despite having Meg as a secondary main character in Trials of Apollo, she still never meets her. She is aware of Meg as she claims her and praises her for her fighting ability, but never tries to communicate her, which feels bizarre. As a result, complete lack of contact. Even if it's not negative contact at least, but I think that definitely puts you in being not a good parent. Dionysus, we've seen him with two sons, Pollux and Castor. Castor died in the Bath of the Labyrinth, and when we see Dionysus in The Last Olympian, he seems genuinely depressed about his death, and asks Percy to look out for Pollux. Then, later on in the Tower of Nero, it's revealed that Mr. D actually lived with Castor, Pollux, and their mother for a period of time, and enjoyed it. I think overall Mr. D's showing on the outside for a lot of the time how much he doesn't care, but he does genuinely seem to. Therefore, I'm going to put him in good parent. Hephaestus keeps a sort of cautious distance with his children, much like the rest of humanity. He does seem to watch over them. He brings Festus back to camp for Leo. I don't believe he's doing anything negative to affect his children. It's just in his eyes he would rather work with machines than humans. And maybe a lot of his children are happy with that as well. It's difficult to know. I don't believe he's doing anything bad, but he's just working on his own things. I mean, if that doesn't make you mid-tier, I think that if you're mid-tier, you're probably bad. We'll put him in bad, but he's going to be the top of the bad. Obviously, we can't do the rest of the Olympians, such as Artemis, Hestia, and Hera. However, with Hera chucking Hephaestus off of Mount Olympus, probably does automatically put her in being not a good parent. There are many other divine beings throughout this universe that could also be ranked in some way. Most of them are not great parents. I mean, if you look at Nemesis and Ethan Nakamura, or Kronos for that example, I mean, you could probably put Gaia as a pretty good parent because she was constantly trying to support her children to achieve their dreams. In fact, Gaia's probably, she was the most involved. You could probably put Gaia as the best parent on this list if you wanted to. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in a couple of days for another video. Goodbye.